Hi, and welcome back to Mr. Raymond's Civics SOL Academy, where today we are going to learn about voter registration for the state of Virginia. As we've discussed in previous videos, voting is a basic right and responsibility for American citizens, one that is crucial in helping us choose a government that is going to best serve our interests. Throughout our history, many Americans have had to fight for their right to vote. And yet, every election, millions of eligible American voters don't show up at their polling place in order to vote. In fact, for the last presidential election in 2012, 51 million eligible Americans were not registered to vote. So, for your state exam, you are going to have to describe the process of voter registration and participation. Now, one thing to remember is that elections are handled by the states, and each state has their own laws and rules and procedures for voting. So, we are going to look at this process for the state of Virginia. And just a reminder, teachers, that this PowerPoint with lesson plans, worksheets, and a variety of resources are available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just click the link in the notes below or search for Mr. Raymond's Civics Academy at Teachers Pay Teachers. So the first thing you need to remember is that only citizens who register to vote may participate in primary and general elections. So you need to know for your exam what the qualifications to register are. First, you must be a citizen of the United States. Second, in order to vote in Virginia, you must be a resident or live in the state and in the district you plan to vote. And this is usually your town or your city. Finally, you must be at least 18 years old. Now, you can register before you turn 18, but you must be 18 by election day. Next, for your exam, you need to know how to register to vote. To register in person, you can go to your town's registrar's office, which you can usually find in your town or city hall, or you can go to the DMV, which is the Division or Department of Motor Vehicles, where you get your driver's license. Next, you can mail in an application. And finally, what's become the most popular way, you can register online. Just Google register to vote, and a variety of sites will take you where you need to go. Now, probably the biggest problem for us busy Americans is that we must register on time. For Virginia, the deadline to register is 22 days before the election, just over 3 weeks. Again, this is just for Virginia. Deadlines are different depending on what state you vote in. For your test, there are 3 factors that you need to memorize, which help predict which citizens are most likely to vote. The first is education. The more educated a person is, the more likely they are going to vote. The next is age. Old people love to vote, and we have a problem in America getting young people to show up for elections. And finally, income. The more money a person makes, the more likely they are to vote. So think of your typical voter as an older, smart, rich person. Of course, these are only factors, and millions of voters, such as teachers who don't make much money, and many more who don't fit into these characteristics, vote in every election. So what are the 2 major reasons people don't vote? The first is apathy. Apathy is a word which means people lack interest. Some people just don't care, or maybe they think that their vote doesn't matter that much. The other is failing to register. Again, with our busy lives, millions of Americans wake up on election day and realize that they forgot to register in time. The last couple of things that you need to remember for your state exam is that the percentage of voters is much higher for presidential elections than it is for state and local elections. For instance, if you live in Virginia and you ask your parents who they were going to vote for in 2016, they will probably tell you either Trump or Clinton, and they will be able to explain their answer. However, if you ask them who they voted for Senate in 2014, Mark Warner or Ed Gillespie, there's a good chance they might ask you, who? Another factor driving voter turnout is how important the issues are to Americans. For instance, during the 1960s, a time when people were fighting against segregation and discrimination and the war in Vietnam, we see the highest percentage of voters showing up to the polls. So what is the takeaway from all this? Well, you have to remember that every vote is important. We have had some super close elections, which could have turned out differently if more people had turned out. We also have to get more young people excited about voting. After all, they are letting older generations make decisions for them, even though those decisions might have a greater impact on their lives than those of the people who are voting. But for now, let's get you ready for your test. So, what are the 3 qualifications to vote in Virginia? You must be a citizen of the United States, a resident of Virginia and the precinct that you live in, and you must be 18 years old. How do you register to vote? There are 3 ways we discussed. You can do it in person, say at DMV or the registrar's office. You can mail in an application, or you can do it online. What is the deadline to vote? Remember, how many days before the election? For Virginia, it is 22 days before the election. What are the 3 factors that help predict who is most likely to vote? Education, age, and income. Who are the 3 demographics most likely to vote? Well, the well-educated, the old, and the wealthy. But again, those are just most likely. Which elections have the highest percentage of voters? Presidential elections. And that is it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Up next, we're going to look at how we elect the president. It's called the Electoral College. And just a reminder, teachers, that this PowerPoint with worksheets, quizzes, smartboard files, and lesson plans with additional activities are available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Click the link in the notes below or search for Mr. Raymond's Civics Academy at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just $1.99. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Keep up that hard work and you are going to ace that exam.